Hi, good evening, good morning, everyone. Let's get started for the day two. And as I told you earlier in yesterday's class, I asked you to create a AWS free tier account. I hope all of you have created the free tier account. Let me share my screen and we can start. Okay. So Bharat, I'm not able to share the screen. Can you check what's happening? Okay, I got it now. And are you able to see my screen? If somebody can just put that in the chat message. Yes, and you can see my IAM screen for that matter. Aditya, identity and access management. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, so I have explained you yesterday, and I have given you a task to create a AWS free tier account, and then based upon that free tier account, you are going to get access to your AWS free account. Now, once you get access to your free tier account, this is what you are going to see as a user. Just a minute. So this is when once you log in, you will be thrown into this screen or maybe some other services screen once you log in. Now I'm going to give you a walkthrough of this, the way the management console. This is how you are able to access your AWS account via a graphical user interface. This is one of the way how you can access your AWS account. There's another way how you can access it. The other way is called as CLI, yeah, which is a command line interface. So we are going to see both the ways how we can access our AWS environment. Now, as you can see on the screen, there are different sections here. I will directly go to the main live screen web page, and I can show you there. The first and foremost thing you need to see whenever you logged in is about the user. Here you can see that this user is going to be a, a user, which is I am user here at the rate the account name. So this is my I am user, not a root user. Let me switch out, or that is better is I can just use a cognito window and use it. So let me log in into it and we'll be able to use it. So all of you will get this prompt whenever you try to log in into your management console. There it is. Yes, so if I just go here and say console, this is the console. And it will have two options. One is the root user and one is the IAM user. As of now, you do not have an IAM user in your account. I have a root user and IAM user already in my account, and which I'm going to use it. Just a minute. Sorry for that. So I'm going to put my username here, and then I will log in into it. Sorry for that. Next, and the password for it. And it is going to ask for the multi-factor authenticator, which I have already set up on my account. The multi-factor authentication is nothing but an added layer of security on top of your AWS account. Whenever you try to log in into it, it's a combination of username and password and and the MFA code. Uh, I will show you that. So here I am logged in, and this is the name of my account, and I will go into this account. Whenever you create an account, every account will have a 12-digit account number associated with it. It will show you what is your account ID, what is your details, and so on. Then what you do is you can look at your billing dashboard, your security credentials when you are looking at your management console. Let me go and show you the security dashboard. In the security dashboard, you have various things to manipulate in there. The first and foremost thing I did was to set up a multi-factor authentication. Now, how do you do that? You have to just go and assign an MFA to your account. Remember one thing, whenever you are setting up your root account, you have to enable the MFA first in your root account. Otherwise, it will not allow you to create a MFA in your IAM user. You can also set a password for your account. You can have different types of password policies. For example, you can have a minimum length as 8 characters. Yeah, include any variables, include any characters as well. This can be done by going into the account setting and change password policy. Going back again to the same security credentials. This is very important from your AWS account perspective to set up a MFA. I will show you how this can be done when we are using a IAM user, and I will set up that MFA for you. Also, one more thing, whenever you are in the dashboard, you have to check this option. This is about the services you are going to use, whether it's a global service, whether it's a regional service. Services in AWS can be regional, it can be global in nature. When I say regional services are like EC2 instance, VPC, DynamoDB, and so on. When I say regional service, I have IAM as the regional service, S3, which is also a global service, and so on. So you can see that from here, and you can see select any of the region. This icon is going to help give you some kind of a support from AWS. You can open this support center to raise a ticket with the AWS team. This is only helpful for you to raise what you can say quota of your AWS account, because at this moment you have gone with a basic account, basic support, and not the enterprise or the business account. So you can raise a ticket here. This icon, this is bell icon, is for any kind of open issues which are there in the AWS environment. It will tell you if there is any issue which is going on with AWS and what is the root cause of it. So you will see it here. Then the third icon on this is a console. Yeah, this is a Cloud Shell. This is called as Cloud Shell, which will give you a CLI to work with your AWS environment. So I will say close it. Fine. And this will give you a CLI to work with it. Then various AWS services can be searched by the search bar here. This search bar is going to give you feature. Let's say I want to search EC2 instance. I will just type in EC2, click on it, and then open it a new window. So this is going to open a EC2 service. If I want to look at any other services, just come here and type it, and you will get the hyperlink for it. Open it, and I'm going to go into the VPC section. Similarly, all services are categorized into different categories, and they are clubbed into some category like this. So in compute, you will say EC2 instance, image builder, Lambda, Lightsail, Outpost. These are the various services. And remember, there are huge amount of services within AWS, close to around almost 275, more than that. So you have to go and check by category as well. This is also possible. If you want to look at any kind of a database, this is also possible. You go into the database, and these are all the databases which are available for you, and the storage service as well. So which is here it is, storage. Yes, here it is. So these are all the storage service you have within your AWS environment. Then, so I'm back to my IAM. The first and foremost thing what I am going to do is I'm going to create create a user in this IAM. Now, what are the users? So for that, we will just go to our PPT and we'll see more details about the IAM. So we are starting with a new chapter, which is identity and access management. This is a service which is helpful for you to do yeah, governance of your AWS users, group, policies, permissions, and so on within your AWS account. Before we go into this IAM service, I just want to iterate two of the the two types of concept. What is authentication and what is authorization? So this is a key pillar of your IAM service, and we should understand what is a authentication and authorization. So authentication is a process of verifying who you are. Hmm? When you log into your PC, you use your username, password, and then you are getting authenticated. So yeah, authentication is simply who you are. Authorization, authorization is about the process of verifying what access do you have on your whatever account. Hmm? Whether you have access to the hard disk, whether you have the access to the network, and so on. All these access are coming from the authorization which is added to your user ID. Hmm? So authorization is about what you can do and use it. So these concepts are very, very important. So let us go and go next. So IAM is a global service. It's not a regional service, and it is a free of cost service, and with which do not have any as such limitation in terms of its usage. And so there is certain limits in terms of how many users you can create, how many groups you can create, and so on. But this is generally a free of cost. We remember yesterday we saw everything in AWS is on demand, and you consume it, you pay the bill for it, and that's it. So this is this is one of the service which is free of cost. This is where you are going to help you to create, manage users, groups, policies, permission for controlling the access to your AWS environment, be it any kind of a resources or any user in this. So these two principles are going to be used when we use the IAM. Authentication, who can use your resources, that is the authentication, and what resources you can in the possible way, that is the authorization. So very important thing to remember, whenever you have created your AWS account, the first user ID which is created for you is the AWS root user. The root user has access to the AWS account, and it has unlimited privileges on your AWS account. Generally, it is the email ID and a password which is associated with your root user. In an organization, there will be only one root user, so you need to be very, very careful when you are using the root user. The root user, since have unrestricted access to the AWS services, it can be, yeah, can be prone to hacking or any kind of a malicious activity. Because once somebody get access to your root user, they can do anything in your AWS account. The root permissions the root permission cannot be changed or altered by anything. Um, am I audible to everybody, or is it just a problem with the Amar? Please reply. Hmm? So users are based upon on the organization need and assign them the required permission, whatever you want to do it with that particular user. As a best practice, AWS suggests that you should not use your root account. Hmm? The root user should not use for the day-to-day activity. Why? Because it is a complete unlimited privilege access to your root user. So as a best practice, you should go and use IAM user. So what is an IAM user? IAM user can be any user who wants access to your AWS environment, or it can be any application. When I say IAM user, I need to have a user ID in the AWS for using the IAM. When I go to my this management console, this is my incognito window. If I go to this section here, you can see there are users in this IAM. So I can see there's one user, which is this one, and then there is another user which is called as network admin. Hmm? So all of you, please hold on your questions at the middle of our class. I will take all your questions and I will try to solve it. So going back to our content. So what you have to do? We have to create a user within your AWS account. And then when we are creating a AWS user, there are two ways how you can get the permission to that user. One is called as programmatic access. Programmatic access is nothing but a kind of a user ID for you to access the AWS account via the CLI. It can also be the SDK and so on. So when you want access to the CLI, you don't have to use the username and password, which is you have set up for your IAM user in the management console. You need to use a, a, a access key and a secret access key, which is created when you create a user. By default, any user who's created will not have any kind of a programmatic access. You have to explicitly go and allow or go and add that permission to do that. The access key will be a 20 character alphanumeric key, and the secret access key are the 40 character alphanumeric key. Yeah, whenever you use this access key and a secret key, please save it properly. So save it properly so that nobody should have access. Whenever I'm using a root user, I do not get access for the billing as such. You go to your AWS account and try to go to the billing section. This is my console. In this case, I can go to the billing and I can get the access to this. But for any IAM user, it is not allowed. Yeah, please bear with me. I am having some cold and cough. So yeah. So in this case, I could see that there is a billing access to me. But when we am using any IAM user, it will not be there. But there are ways how you can do that. And that is what I have already done in my AWS account, which entitles me for any kind of a access. So if I just log in into my console with my normal IAM user, it is going to get me the connectivity on. So MFA. The MFA number is going to keep on changing. And I have to put that. So it is very, very secure. Here it is. Now in this, I can go into the billing section and I can use it. Now there is a setting for it, which I will show you, but then it is only applicable from the root. You cannot change this setting. Here you can say billing is there, but you cannot change this from your IAM, but you have to your from IAM user, you have to go to your root. This is the root which we can distinguish by just the account number. And if I go to my account here, and if I just scroll down, scroll down, there is this option which is called IAM user and role access to the billing information. You have to go and edit it, which I have already done. And that's the reason I am able to get the access. In that case, this is by default not enabled. Fine. So let us go and create an IAM user. Very good. So as a first thing, when you want to play with your AWS account, the first thing you should do is to create an administrator account for your user. This administrator account is going to give you access to your complete AWS environment. Why I'm saying administrator? Because you are going to use that to play with the AWS account. So let us go and create an admin user. How do you create? If you can see here in the left pane, there are various options: users, role, policies, user groups, then identifier, and so many things again. In my account, I have just 2 users. So we'll create a new user. Either you click on here or you just, once you have this option menu, you can add user here. I'm going to add a new user. The username is admin. And this username can be anything, whatever you feel. No spaces in between. Admin ExcelR. This is the name of my user. I told you we need to select the options, the type of credentials. Can I give him the programmatic access, which will use the CLI to access the AWS, or I can give a management console access to that user. Remember, by default, or not by default, almost on all the cases, people will get the management console access rather than the programmatic access. This is mostly being used by administrator of the account. Those who are well familiar with the CLI commands, how to construct it, how to use it, and so on. So in this case, I'm going to create both the access because this is my admin. And you can see as soon as I select this password option, it gives me an option to change or to set the console password. I can auto generate or I can custom it. And it is also going to ask me, do you want to reset the password at the first login? I'm going to go ahead with the default settings on this and not going to tamper with anything. Next, go to the permissions. By default, any IAM user, when we are creating, he do not have any permission. He has zero permission. There are ways to add the permission to the user. How do you do that? Either you add this user to a group, which is this one, or you add him a policy directly. Now, what is policy? We will see that in a subsequent slide. Just hold on your questions. We'll see that. So now one way is to add that users to the group. Group will have permission to have the administrator access and they can be used. Now, adding a user to a group is a easy way when you have multiple number of users who need the same permission. This group, yeah, it's nothing but a group of users which has common set of permissions and common permission boundaries. So as a best practice or as a first step, I'm going to create a group and I'm going to add that user. So here is my admin grp. This is the name of my user. This is the group. Now I told you we need to give permissions. Now AWS has already created permission policies for you. Permissions policy for you, and they are readily available for you to consume it and use it. If you see at the screen, there are these policies which are showing with the orange icon. And you can see the type as job function, type as AWS manage, and there might be something else as well, like the, and just type in here, or filter policies based upon the customer based policy. So we will look at that option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a user based upon the job role. Why I'm going to create a user based upon job role? Because this is what I want to create as a administrator user. So you can see if you can navigate, there is a administrator access here. I'm going to check this and I'm going to use it. So the permission which is attached to my group is an administrator permission. Create group. That's it. Okay, so my user is added to the group. I will go through this again and show you one more time when we create another user, but time being, just follow what I'm just doing it. Now, this user is added to the admin group who has administrator privileges. Next, do a tag. Now, what is tag? Tag is nothing but a kind of a key value pair which is helpful for you to use your AWS resources and at the same time have a better management of that user by giving a key and a value for it. If I want to filter it out, all the users who are part of a department IT, then I will give a value or the key as department and value as IT. I can give another key, which is project, and this is web development. So like this, you can have lot many values in your tag. You can have almost 50 tags from here. Now these tags are optional, but it is highly recommended that you should go and add tags to your resources so that you better manage your resource. So I have just added it. Whenever you want to filter all resources based upon the value as web development and it is for a certain project, then yeah, you will get the resources. Then once this is done, I will review it and I will look at all the options. I have given him the both type of access, programmatic as well as the management console. Password will be auto-generated. Required password reset will be yes. and permission boundary is not set. This is we'll come back to it. You can see there is a permission which is attached. I have attached user to the group and then the I am user change password. Now from where this has came? This has came from the fact that I am asking my user to change his password at the first login. Every action in AWS needs a permission to do that. So that's the reason it has added by default I am change user password as the name suggests. So it will entitle him to change the password for the I am user. Got it? Next, create user. Now, once you say create user, it is very, very important to download the CSV file. Now, what is the CSV file? This CSV file will contain the user ID, the access key, and the secret access key. Now, if you don't download this credentials here, you will not be able to see the secret access key. And if you want to use the same secret access key, either you have to create a new one, or you will not be able to see it. So that's the reason it is very, very important for you to download this CSV file. You can send this CSV file to a user by sending an email, and it will use any of the email client to do this. I'm just going to download it, and that's it. And let me open that file. Here is the file, and you can see there are credentials here, and you can use it. The username and the password, the access key, secret access key, and a console URL. Now, what is this console URL? Whenever I want to use my AWS, a URL for my console access is created. If you look at your URL, this might have a 12-digit account number before the dot sign in thing. This is there because whenever you create your IAM user, by default, it takes the user ID as its account alias or the username. How it can be verified? You can go and verify in the IAM dashboard. Once you go to the IAM dashboard, you can see this is your account ID and there is a account alias. In your case, you might have an option of create account alias. This account alias needs to be unique across the globe. This does not need to be same between two users. So you have to look at a unique name. And this is why I have just given some random characters and used it. So this is why your account sign in URL is something like this. If I go and use this, I do not have to put the account alias or account number in my console login. By doing this, I am just getting a better, what you can say, I don't have to remember the account number, the 12-digit account number. Okay, fine. This is how you create an IAM user. Now let us go and log in with this IAM user. Remember one thing, you will not be able to log in from the same browser to different users. So that's the reason I'm using a normal browser and a Cognito browser or an in private browser. Here you can see this is my in private or Cognito, and this is my normal. Let me sign out from here, and I will use that URL which I have in here, and I will show you that it is going to take the account name directly, paste it in the browser, and here it is. You can see my account alias or 12-digit account is already pre-populated here. Now what I have to do, I have to put in the IAM user. Let us go and put that. Here is my IAM username and put the URL, the name here and the password which is there. Here it is. And paste it here. And I will say remember for this account. As soon as I do that, it is going to ask me to change my password. This is based upon the setting I have done. I'm going to set up a new password for it. This is my new password. Confirm password change. And I will say save. Sorry for that. So you can see I have logged in into my management console with the new user ID. Now, if I go and check my user ID, it should be visible in this IAM. Here is my user ID. Now you can see there that root user MFA is set up for the root user, but MFA is not set up for this IAM user. That is what I will show you. Here is my user, 3 users, and this is the new user I have just created. And you can see the permission I have and the group I am part of and the security credentials. If I want to change my security credential, change password and all those things, I can come here and change it here. I can also assign an MFA from here. Let us do that. So I will use it from here, or you can simply go to this in the security credentials. That is also another way. And yeah, check this option here, MFA device, assign MFA device. Let us do that from here. Click on this assign MFA user, and you will see 3 options in your AWS account. The first option is called as virtual MFA device. Now, in this case, I'm using a soft token, token which is generated by a software which I have installed on my mobile device. I can use that software on my mobile device, or I can use it from my laptop. The few of the popular authenticator tools are Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, and there's one more called as Authy. Google and the AWS and the Microsoft Authenticator, the Google Authenticator and the uh, Microsoft Authenticator, they are only mobile based. They cannot give you the option to generate the token on a laptop or a desktop. With Authy, you have that option. The second option is called as the security key. The security key is nothing but a UB key, kind of a key. You can see the image of it. Here it is, like this. Here you just have to go and connect to and you can put in your fingerprints on this, and that will generate a token for you. The third option is hardware virtual MFA. This is nothing but a server kind of a thing, a hardware, complete hardware, which will help you to generate tokens, and that can be used to log in. This is very, very useful for a compliance reason. Certain government organizations which are compliant with the US FIPS 2, FIPS 3 kind of compliance, they are going to use the cloud HSM or the hardware MFA device. In this case, we are not going to use it. This is free of cost. This you need to invest some money. So I'm not going to use both these options. The first option is good for me. Continue. Now here it is very, very important to focus on here. You just go and check your list of compatible applications which are available for the mobile devices. You can go here and check, and then you can say scan QR. And before that, you install the Google Authenticator on your mobile. It can be from your Google or your Android Play Store, or it can be from your Apple store. Then once you have that, you just have to scan using that software, and it will give you a code in the Google Authenticator. So let me just try and get the code for you. Here it is. Scan a barcode. Here it is. I got a code on my account, and I will be able to put that code. Here is the code 940848. This is the code which will come on my screen. Now this code will keep on changing within some time. So this, once the code is changed, you have to put the second code in the second MFA or the MFA code too. So this is what I have to put it. 365. Once this is done, I have to assign it. So I have put in the consecutive codes on my mobile app, and then I have used it. So assign MFA. So my MFA is assigned to the account. Fine. Now you can see my user is logged in and he has privileges to all the accounts. So I want to all the services. I can open EC2. I can open S3, which is the storage service from AWS. Here it is. And so on. You can see I can open everything. Now let us go and do one thing. Sorry. Let us create another user. This time we are going to create a user who has very limited permissions. Let us go and see a user who has access to only S3 buckets. First, we will create a user with no access, and then we add a permission to it, and we'll see that. How do you do that? Again, the same thing. Go into the user, add user, and S3, S3 admin, and I will say ExcelR. I'm going to give both console and programmatic access. And this time I'm not going to change the password. I'm going to set a custom password, and and I will not reset the password. So you can try off this option as well. So I have set up custom password and I have not requested to change the password at the next login. Fine. Next permission. In this case, I don't want to add any permission. By default, you whenever you create, you don't have any permission. You go and you have to explicitly go and add the permission. So I'm not going to add anything at this moment and simply going to go ahead. Next, I can add tag. Okay, I can say project, and it is storage management is the name of my project. Very good. And that's it. I can have one key or I can have multiple key. I will say review. It says user has no permission. That's what we need actually. Okay, let us go and do that. Create user. Now again, the same thing will happen. I have created an access key and a secret access key, but I do not have the username. I do not have the password set for the console. Download the CSV, and I will use this CSV to log in into my account. Yeah, here is my login. So here is my account ID. This is my account ID, and I know the password. Before I do that, I have to again log out from my other account because that is not going to get me the access. So this is my normal. I will simply close all of my windows, or I can simply say sign out from here. Okay, that's fine. And okay, I'm going to put the URL into my the credential. This is the URL for my management console and put it there. That's it. And I can see that yes, my user, the account alias is already there. I will take the username, which is this one, and put that, and a password which I've already configured. That's it. I do not have a MFA on it. I don't want to save it. And as soon as I log in, okay, it will be able to allow me to log in into my management console. But if I go to any of the service, let's say I want to go to IAM, here is the IAM. And once I go into the IAM, what will happen? I will not have any access. You do not have the permission required to perform this operation. Let us go and see the EC2 as well. EC2. You will get this kind of API errors when you have a permission issues. I can try to launch a machine and then see what is the message I'm going to get. So I will say yes, no worries, launch instance, and fine. Proceed without key, proceed without, and I have to give all the details. Yeah, actually. So fine. If I can just 1, 2, and I will look at the earlier option of it. Select the AMI, and here it will say an error occur describing your selected AMI, which says you are not authorized to perform this operation. That means I do not have the access to the EC2 instance. So what should we do? We go and add some permissions. So before we go that, let us see whether we have S3 access as well. In that case, we did not add access permission for the S3 as well. Let's go there. And here is my, you don't have permission to list bucket. This is the error I'm getting because I do not have any permission in the AWS account. Excellent. Now let us go and change the permission. This is my user, close it. How do I do that? I go to my user. This is my S3 admin user, and I am going to add him the permission. Once I click on this, it gives me an option to get started with the permission. Let me go and add him permission. Now I can either add him to the group or I can add him attach the policy. In this case, I don't want this user to be part of an administrator group. I want him to be a S3 admin, which is the storage service. So I'm going to add a policy for it. How do I add it? Go on to the third tab and do that. Here it is. Attach existing policy. And I will just go and search for S3 admin or S3 full access. Here it is. Copy it and review it. Add permissions. And that's it. I have the permission. Let me go to the other window from my user. And I just do a refresh here. And here it is. You can see I can look at all the buckets. I have my NS3. So don't worry, bucket, what is bucket and all those things we'll see in the class today. So that is how you create a user. That is how you add a permission, and that is how you govern the user. Very, very simple. Let us go to the section. So we've already seen that. Then we'll look at the other options, which are groups, roles, and policies. Group is nothing but a collection of IAM users. Group can have many users. A user can be part of multiple groups, and so on. A group cannot be a nested group, which means you cannot have a group inside a group. User can be part of any by default. User cannot is not added to any group. You have to go and add. So by default, or there's a soft limit on your account which will entitle you to create IAM users, 100 IAM user groups, 5,000 users, and so on. You can look at the limits of your account by going into your AWS documentation. Then we will see a policy. This is what we have just referred, and we need to see the policies. Now, what is a policy? Policy is nothing but a document which will define what is the permission you have as an end user, whether you have administrator access, whether you have admin access, S3 admin access, EC2 admin access, or just a read-only access. This policy document is written in a JSON format, which is called as JavaScript object notation format. And in that, you are going to define that particular permissions. A policy can be associated with one or more users. You can attach multiple policies to a particular user as well. So there are certain elements of a policy. We will see that. Before I go into this, I'm going to go to the console and show you the policy or the permission we have added to our administrator group or the administrator group which has a user in it. So this is my group here and this is my admin, and he has some permission to it. So permission he have is a administrator access. So I go into this and click on here. Once I click on this, it is going to use the policy for that administrator access. Now look at this policy, which is written in the JSON format. The policy states certain attributes in this. And this is what I was talking about on the sheet here in the PPT here. Every policy will start with a policy version. The policy version is going to be fixed for each and every policies you are going to use in the AWS environment. This is 2012-10-17. This is the latest and the greatest policy version you will have for all policy in the AWS. Then you will have a section called as effect, action, and resource. Now, what is the effect? Effect have two values. Either you allow it or either you deny it. This is going to say that yes, on the particular resource, this particular action is allowed or denied. Then the action section. In the action section, you can have certain permission like read or list that bucket, edit that bucket, delete that bucket, change that bucket, and so on. Remember one thing, whenever you are working with your bucket, you have the attributes written, referred something like this: get object, put object. Now, in terms of the API language, a get is nothing but a read operation. A put is nothing but a write operation. And list is just a list and delete is just a delete. So like this, you will see there are various actions you can do on this. Now, because this is administrator policy, you can see a star, which is a wild character. In a programming language, a star denotes everything. This is what it denotes. So it's saying action, any action, resource, any resource. Now, what is this resource? This can be your EC2 instance. This can be your S3 bucket. It can be your DynamoDB database. It can be your VPC, and it can be anything. Whenever you create a resource within your AWS account, all of the resource will have something called as ARN, Amazon Resource Name. This value is going to be referred when you are trying to programmatic access to these resources. When you try to refer to to a to a user or to a particular resource, you have to refer this in your application. And by doing that, you are going to get the access to it programmatically. Now, this is admin. Let us go and see another policy which we have added to the S3 admin. This is S3 admin will have a different policy in terms of the values you can see. Click again here and see that. Okay, you can see in the policy, you can say effect is allow action. There are two actions. One is S3 colon star. That means any action related to the S3 bucket is allowed. Then S3 hyphen object hyphen lambda colon star. I hope you are able to see this. Let me increase the size. Fine. And okay, this is how the policy will look like. And then resource, it is saying any resource. So this is how the policy will look like. So understand this is very critical from a this is the example of the policy which I have already created. So it is the administrator policy, and you can see the same in the console as well. So what I will do now, I'm going to take a pause here and I can open the chat, or you can send me a chat and ask your question for the next 7 to 8 minutes, and we'll wind up on 10th minute and start again. Okay, so over to you. If you have any queries, I could see people have raised their hands. I'm extremely sorry in terms of answering question, could not do that when you raised your hand, but yes, I'm now ready to take the questions. Okay, over to you. If you want, you have any questions. Somebody says, sir, could you please explain AWS again? Uh, so I could not get Sukriti your question. Okay, what do you mean by again, AWS again? So we have gone through it, and we have just gone ahead of it. Again, just go through this recording. The recording will be provided by Leela and Bharat, and you will be able to do it. Can I get a thumbs up if you are able to send the message for any queries? I'm waiting for it. And yes, very good. I can see. Yes. Last part, which one you want to opening this code? Okay, last part is the admin access policy. Let me go here to my account, and which service we will learn. Okay, that is, there is a complete list of it. I will tell you that. So we are going to look at various major services like S3, EC2, RDS, VPC, and so on. Hmm? We got it when I got to practice. Very good, Anup. What is the programmatic part? Now, whatever we are doing, this is based upon the GUI. Yeah, if you want to write a command to do the same thing, I can do that by using the CLI. Can you explain opening this code? How do I do that? I go to a user. Okay, there are multiple ways to do that. Go to user, go to your, click on it. Once you click on it, you will see the permissions. And in the permissions, you can do one thing. You can just click on it and it is going to open the permission. So yes, Vishal, you are going to get a why we are creating a account. Yes. So I explain you when we start using our AWS account, we have a root user and root user have unlimited privileges and we cannot use that because there is a inherent risk with that. And that's the reason I am going to create a IAM user. This IAM user, I am going to give it to various users of AWS environment and they can very well use it. That's why I'm how to use it in real life. So Kalyani, you are a user of a company and you want to access your AWS account. How do you access it? You should get a username and password. That is what you are going to create by creating an IAM user. Hmm? Is JSON code different for every user? Now, if I'm going to add administrator access privileges to a particular user, this JSON form policy format is going to be exact same. Hmm? Yes, correct. Atharva, in a group, we can add multiple users and they will have all the same permissions. Very good. How can I create a user in AWS? Still, sir, now did we learn to know how to create? Yes, Manoj, you missed the first part. We have seen this and we have created. Just go to the account and create it. Can we have a super user too? In what is super user? Irfan, super user is nothing but a root user. What you if you might want to say, then yes, it is a super user, but it's called as root user. IAM is free service. Absolutely. 12th month completion of your AWS account. Can I access my project free? You can access your project, but whatever the resources you have created on your AWS account, that is going to be charged. Hmm? Disadvantage of AWS, very good, Sukrit. Yeah. So at times, okay, now this is very, very generic. At times, if you don't pay attention to your AWS resources within your AWS account, you are going to get a huge bill if you don't keep a tab of the resources. This can be one of the advantage. If you just create today and you come back after 2 months of creation of your resources, the, the bill for that resource will be keep on continuing. Why the error? Because we have not given the permission to the user in S3 and EC2. I don't know whether the option is there for everyone. Let me just to everyone. Okay, let me check. I think you should be. Is I am concerned or pass as or as I says no. Is it infrastructure? No, it is not infrastructure. It's kind of a you cannot categorize it, but it is giving you kind of a functionality. I think everybody is able to do the message. Yeah, to everybody. Please enable option message for everyone. I did that, Chaitanya. And very good. Fine. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start again if you don't have a question. I'll be on a mute for a minute and we'll start again. Okay, I'm back. And yes, I could see. Can we change the code in the permission? Yes, you can do that. Let us go and see that now. And how many privileges you can have? Different privileges. Let's go and do that. Can I edit user policy? Yes, you can do that. Access for vanilla access for all the resources means also can launch machine or do anything with resources. In action part, S3 access is only given for S3 access. Can we change the code in the permission? Yes, you can do that, and so on. Thank you. So we are going to start now again. So we have just seen the policies and the permission. Now you might say that how do I change the policy? Huh? So let me show you how do I change the policy for my user. This is my one of the administrator, or this is the S3 admin policy. Now let us go and create a new policy, which might be just something like this, or maybe something else. So how do you do that? You go to your policies here and you will say create policy. And then this is a visual way of creating your policy. There is, you can simply write a JSON and that will also create a policy for you, but you can also do it visually. Let us go and see one of the policies to create access for EC2 instance. So once you go there, you have to select the service. Services can be anything. So I will just type in EC2 here, and in EC2, there are so many things you can select from it. So I will just select plain simple EC2. That's it. And the action, I can select all action for my EC2 instance, or I can just select read, list, or write permission as well, like this. And as you can see, as I go and selecting the permissions here, you will see there are different values here. These are all the permission you can give to a user. All the, let me just go and list something, see the list. In the list, you can say volume, described volume. Then describe images. This is the IM image. We'll see that later on. Yeah, and you can add many other things as well. If I want to just see for some of the read operations. If I want to see the tags, I have to use a action called describe tag. If I want to see the GPU or the console output of my whatever the command, or if I want to change the resource policy for my, yeah, so I can, or I can just want to read the resource policy, I can do that. Now this can be done by using a documentation, AWS IAM policy, or you can see lot many policies. This is the link I can have. And we will see few of the policies, type of policies on this. So the few of the policies we can have is the resource-based policy and identity-based policy. Now let us go to our console and see the policies here. What we were trying to do is, I was trying to set up a access permission for just read only. Let us do that for just read only. Fine. And then I want it to be applied to all resources. This is can be selected from it. If you get this error or get this kind of option, just click on it and it will give you option to select all resources. Fine. So it is saying you can do a list and read of EC2 instance on all resources. And optionally, I can have a condition as well, which I don't want to do it at this moment because it is going to complicate the things. So close it and I will say next, and I can add a tag, or I can just go ahead simply next review, give a name to my policy, my EC2 read only. This is the policy I have created, read only policy, and put it as a description. And let me add it ExcelR. And that's it. You can see that I am selected almost one of the two services, one of the 327 services available from AWS. Let us go and create policy. So it is giving an error. No, that's fine. And here is my policy created. Now this policy which I have created, it is called as a customer manage policy. Now why this is? We'll see that. I have created this policy and I am custodian of this policy and I'm going to maintain this policy. Whereas the administrator access policy, which we have seen some time back, that is managed by AWS. That is called as AWS managed policy. And you can see I have all these actions with effect allow and so on. All those things and on all resources. Now, if somebody wants to edit it, go here, click on the JSON. And if you want to play it, yes, you can play it. You can edit it. This is how you can do it. So I hope this is helpful and you are able to create a policy. This is what I want to show you as part of the policy. There's another way how you can create a policy, which is called as AWS policy generator. Policy generator. AWS policy generator. Before we go on to the AWS policy generator, I just want to show you a few of the things. What is the types of different policies? So we have a resource-based policies. The resource-based policies are nothing but the policies which are only based upon the resource, does not have a user or any credentials. That is the resource-based policies. A resource-based policy can be a policy to access one bucket, S3 bucket, which is a storage account. A policy can be to access a database, something like this. Then identity-based policy is the one we have just created. We have given a user a permission sometime back. We have given a permission to that user when I've created this, the group, and then attach the permission to him. This is the how you attach a IAM based policy or a user based policy. Then go into this. Yes. Then you have different things based upon organization SAP. We will not go into this details because there are advanced topics. These are the and we will not be able to cover as part of this. But yes, you can go and check all the details. I'm going to give you a list of a sample code samples. IAM policies example. How do you create a user? How do you create a role and all those things? Paste it in the chat to everyone. And here it is. Very good. So let us go to the next section. So we have seen group policies. How do you add a policy? How do you create a custom policies? When I use a custom policy, the onus of maintaining it is on me. When I use a management policy, AWS managed policy, the AWS will take care of it. Any new feature which is added to a particular service will be managed by AWS and change the policy accordingly. If that particular services is part of your the user managed policies, you have to go and manually update the permission in that policy. Then only you will be able to get the access to that particular resource. Next. Then we are going to see a very important part which is called as roles. Now let us take an example. So we as an individual play a lot of roles in the in our day-to-day activity. So for example, I am a trainer, I am a teacher, I can be a carpenter, I can be a cook, I can be anything. Now whenever I want to do, I am having the multiple hats to take care of it. So I have this role. This is the role of my particular user. So here I am a cook. Yeah, here I'm a cook. So what I will do, I will cook the food. Yeah, I will cook the food. When I am a teacher, I am going to teach. So like this, we are taking multiple roles and getting the things done based upon the role which we are configuring. Similarly, in AWS, we also have a role. In this diagram, what we have seen here, there's a classic example when somebody wants to access a S3 bucket photos. In this case, you have a EC2 instance which has an application on it, and you want to access the S3 bucket. Now, we have just seen that whenever you want to access any resources, you need to have a permission for it. The best way to give a permission to a particular resource is by using a roles. In this case, if you can look at the option one, the admin creates a role that grants access to the photos bucket. This is talking about the S3 bucket. This role is being assigned to the EC2 instance when it is created. Now, how it is created, we will see that in the EC2 instance class. How we attach it, we will see that. But for time being, just assume this role is attached to a user. Now, once you attach this role, he will have a permission to work with the S3 bucket. Now, the application which is there on the EC2 instance, it is going to try and retrieve the photos from that S3 bucket. When it tries to do that, it is going to compare, check what are the permissions I have on the S3 bucket. And if that role gives him the permission to the S3 bucket, then he will be able to get the photos using the role credentials. In the complete process, what is happening is these roles are getting used only when he's trying to access the application to access the photo. So, point to be noted is a role is kind of a temporary credentials to get access to other resource services. So whenever you assume a role, then you are going to do the work of a cook or a teacher or a driver or anything. In this case, your EC2 instance is going to do the role of managing the S3 bucket, accessing the S3 bucket. So this is role. Very, very important concept of role. All organizations works on this. When they want to give access to any user from one account to another account, they use simply roles. This is the best way. 90 type of cases, you will go and give the roles rather than create individual permissions and policies. So this is role for you. So now I have one thing which I want to just highlight. Now, whenever you are using your particular user and then creating a user ID for it, you are doing a lot of manual stuff, correct? So when suppose you already have your username created in your organization. So can you use that user ID to log in into your AWS account? Yes, it can be done. How it is done? That can be done by something called as by doing a federation by using the identity provider. Now, look at this scenario. In a big company, we have thousands of users. Are you going to create a user, I am user for each and every user? No, the answer is no. Practically, it is not possible because you are already having that username for a particular user from an identity provider. In that case, the identity provider is your Active Directory, Microsoft Active Directory. So if you want to integrate the user credentials of that particular user with your AWS to get access to the AWS resources, then you are going to use the identity provider, and you can do an integration by using a SSO, which is nothing but a single sign-on. Same user ID and password can be used to log in into multiple applications. Single sign-on. There's a huge amount of configuration you have to do, but this is how it works in the real life. You don't have to go and create IAM users every time you want to use the AWS account or you want to give access to somebody. So this is the identity provider, and this can be done by using a SAML. SAML is nothing but a protocol, simple assertion markup language, which uses 2.0 protocol, and you can use it. This is generally used in an enterprise environment wherein you use the Active Directory for it. There are other ways how you can do that as well. Okay, so now I come back again to our policy generator, which is again one of the tool to access the policy creation. And we are going to see this again in S3 bucket. So just going to go little fast and create it. So I can create this many policies only in a policy generator. I cannot create any other policies from this policy generator. These are generally a resource-based policies which I'm trying to create it. Let's say I want to create an IAM policy. Now this policy, I have to tell that what is the effect, whether I want to allow, whether I want to deny. Then I will select the service on which I want to get the access. So there is another service called SQS, or maybe I just use a very known service, which is, let's say, VPC. Yeah. Where is VPC? VPC or Lambda. Okay, very good. Not Lambda, I would say I have, it's better I use the S3 because I already have a S3 in my account. Where is my S3? S3. Yes, S3 here. And I want to do certain actions. Sorry. These are the actions I can do. Better I just select all actions because I will be able to distinguish it based upon I don't want to see all the permission and all those things. Now, once you do that, I have to use the ARN for it. This is the ARN you are going to get for the bucket because you are creating a IAM policy to access a certain resource, which is the bucket. Let us go and look at the bucket. What we have in your account, you might not have a bucket. You can go and create it. How it is going to create, we will see that in some time. So here is my bucket. I can simply create a bucket and I go this and I look at the property of it and I can get a ARN of it. I go into this bucket. Bucket is nothing but storage for what you are going to use it. Here it is. And in the property, I will look at the ARN here. I copied it. I go to into my policy generator and then paste it here. And I will use a forward slash and I want to access everything from this bucket. Yeah, okay, fine. This is ARN should be like this. S3 bucket name, and it should give that. And now it is not giving. Did I copy something different? Let us go and in this format, which is what I am selecting. Here it is. Copy, paste it, and this, and forward slash and star. It is okay. It is saying enter a valid ARN. I am putting an enter valid URN, but I just want to verify whether this is a right one. I cannot see that. Okay, let me use another one. This is the ARN for me. Paste it. Very strange that it is not taking this. It should take actually. Or maybe I can just put it all services if this is not working. Okay, so in this case, I'm just creating an administrator access. Now, it is somehow not taking that, but it should take. There's no error in that. And I will say all actions, all services, and I will put star here in the ARN, add a statement, that's it. And it is going to create an administrator policy for me. So this is same what we have done for the administrator access earlier. So action is star, resources effect is allow, and resources star. So this is how you can create a policy by using your policy generator. Very, very good tool. Fine. That's it. That is what I want to tell you from the IAM perspective. There is a link in this, which the document which I'm going to share, and you can just go and see it. So now we are going to move to the S3. Before I move on to S3, I just want to take a pause, maybe 5 minutes. And if anybody has any kind of a questions, I will be happy to take that. Anybody? The attendance sheet, attendance link will be difference between a role and a policy. Yeah, so policy is just a document which state what is the policy, what is the permission you are going to get. Policy, and then on the other hand, role is going to consume that policy, and then you are going to give that role to particular application. In this case, the in this case, let me just do a pointer. In this case, your application which is sitting on your EC2 instance. This is how you can do that. Okay, so I could not understand. Could you explain briefly what is that? Uh, can we have roles in policies? You attach policies to the roles, not the other way. Is SSO only single ID and password is given to multiple user? Not at all. You will have your individual user IDs. This is not at all good practice. Every IAM user or the SSO user ID which you are going to create along with your identity provider will have a named user or individual, what you can say, all the users. Okay, anybody else? Otherwise, we'll move to the next. Fine. Our custom policies on actual workspace. Do we need create and manage such policy? What kind of service need to manage? Anup, this is what you as an administrator have to do. Sorry. So you as an administrator, you have to do these things when you want to give access to somebody in your AWS account. You have to do that. Know about IAM user. Very good. Why do you need to know about IAM user? How you are going to create a user, how you are going to access the AWS account. There's no way for you to access account unless and until you have an IAM user. This is the understanding the IAM service is very, very critical when you want to play with the various services in your AWS account, when you want to give permission, roles, and all those things. Identity provider, Bankar, Gaurav, identity provider is nothing but a server which is going to give you the identity of that particular user. In that case, your Active Directory. Now, when I use identity provider, I am getting my user ID for let's say any user ID xyz dot at the rate xyzcompany.com. So this is what you are going to get with your identity provider. It has to use a domain for it and then use it. Can Amazon user can access the AWS? Yeah, they can access, but they will not have any control over it. Means there is a clear segregation of it. If you mean to say if it is your resources and they want to access it, no, it is not possible. We'll learn. Yeah, yes, we will learn DCP and this. Create policies and possible delete the policy. Yes, absolutely, you can delete it. Suchita, roles is nothing but kind of a temporary permission credentials you are going to use when you want to do some certain activities. I can be a cook, I can be a driver, I can be a teacher, and so on. When I want to do this, a role of a cook, I will take assume that permission and do the work. When I'm a teacher, I will not do a cooking or something. That is how. So yes, the key difference between manage and a custom policy is if you want to have some kind of a customization in the whatever the policy you have, then you can simply use the base AWS manage policy, do some changes and create your own custom manage policy. For example, if you want to add two policies into one policy, you can do that. You can have a mix and match of it. Okay, so let us go and move on to the next section, which is the S3. Very, very popular service from AWS, and it is called as Simple Storage Service S3. Very, very heavily used by all the customers. Can you please show how to delete? Okay, let me just go and show you how to delete it. Very simple. So my suggestion is don't delete it. It is not going to cost you anything. It is going to live in that particular policy only. So yeah, you can see I have opened that policy and there's an option to delete it. This way I can simply delete it. Okay, that's it. My policy is gone. I can create, you can see I have some customer managed policies. I can just go and delete. Go here, select it and delete as well. I have to give the name for it. Don't delete it. There's no charges for it. Okay, fine. Let us go to the S3 service. S3, as the name suggests, is a simple storage service. It's a simple storage service, which is very popular. And it is going to be used for storing the data onto your S3. Okay, so before we move to S3, we need to just understand what are the different storage services which are available on AWS. What are the different storage? The storage can be categorized into something called as block storage, object storage, and even the file server. So based upon those kind of usage, you are going to create different storage services in AWS. Anything you are going to use in your AWS is a storage service, is a service. Now, the first thing so it's called as EBS, Elastic Block Storage. This is the local persistent storage which you are going to attach to your EC2 instance, which is nothing but your virtual machine. This is the hard disk of your machine where you are going to install the OS. Then we will see that in the detail in the subsequent slide. We have EFS. Hmm? EFS is nothing but a shared file system. You can attach a elastic file system. It is abbreviated EFS. You can attach this elastic file system to multiple EC2 instance, multiple EC2 instance, EC2, and at the same time you can access same data from all the EC2 instance. It works on a protocol called NFS, which is Network File Sharing System, and yeah, and that is the 4.0 something. Then you have a very popular, which is called as S3. It's a highly scalable, durable object storage service, which is can be accessed from anywhere in the world by using a URL. Remember one thing, this S3 is a public service, yeah, or this service is accessible outside of your VPC. We will see why it is saying outside of the VPC later on. Then within the S3, we also have a service called Glacier. Now, if you want to store your data for a longer period of time, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and let's say more than that, then you are going to use the Glacier. Why do you use that? Just to save on the cost. When you are saving it for a longer period of time, you want to save on the cost. Then if you want to use a hybrid storage services, a combination of on-premise as well as your cloud storage, then you need to go with the storage gateway. There are different types of storage gateway. One is called as volume gateway. In volume, there is a cache volume and a stored volume. In terms of, it is going to use iSCSI protocol, iSCSI block protocol. Then we have a file gateway, which is going to use a SMB or NFS, the protocols to access this. And then we have a tape gateway as well within the storage gateway. Tape gateway is going to give you a functionality of a virtual tape drive. What is virtual tape drive? Yeah, maybe I'm not sure if any of you have seen a cassette player. It is just a magnetic cassette which is going to store the data. So that is also that called virtual tape gateway library. Then we have a very fast and highly performant file system which is called as AWS FSx. In AWS FSx, we have different types of FSx system. First is FSx for Lustre. What is this? This is a FSx storage which is high performance, feature rich, highly scalable service for the Linux operating system. The use of your FSx file system is to do parallel processing of your data. And when you do a parallel processing or accessing of your data, you are going to get a very high throughput. And this is needed when you are doing some kind of analytics work, some kind of a machine learning, or some kind of a very heavy kind of a computation thing on the particular storage. Then you need to go for FSx for Lustre, which is only compatible with Linux operating system. You have FSx for Windows, and this is going to support only Windows machines. Then we have NetApp ONTAP. This is another technology which is pioneered by the NetApp, the company, which have a solution which is called as ONTAP. This is a shared file system from NetApp, and which is provided on the AWS cloud. Then you have OpenZFS. This is again a file system which is open source, and it has its use case as well. Then we will look at certain types of the storage. What is block, what is file storage, and what is object storage? So whenever you try to use your storage, they can be broadly categorized into different types of storage. So just a minute, what happened? Yes. So there are three types of storage based upon the way you access or based upon how you use it. One is called as block storage. Another is called as file storage. Third one is called as object storage. When I use block storage, I am accessing the data which is stored on my storage device in terms of block of data. So every block storage will have an index of the data. You read that index, go to that particular block, access that data. This is a block storage for you. When you use block storage in AWS, that is supported by your EBS, Elastic Block Storage, which is used for your EC2 instance. Remember, block storage is going to give you an option to install the operating system on it. Then we have file storage. File storage is nothing but a kind of a central place where you can have a shared file access to various files and which can be managed by your service provider or a cloud provider. The file storage, which is offered from AWS point of view, is EFS. It works on the NFS protocol. Then we have object storage. Now, object storage is a storage which will be stored as kind of a object or a flat file which do not have an index. If I want to access that particular file, I don't have an address for that file. I just go and have the unique ID of that object. The unique ID of that object will have some kind of a metadata, and metadata is nothing but the data of about whatever the data. For example, if you have a JPG file, the data metadata for the JPG file is type as JPG, some size, when it was created, and the name of the file. So this is the object for you. And S3 is the object storage in AWS. Now let us look at S3. So this all the services which I've just explained and the type of things, we will see that in certain details. But let us go and going to see S3, simple storage service. It's a global service. You have to, but even though it is a global service, you have to create into a particular region. Now, when I say S3 is a global service, I have to select a bucket where I have to. Now, what is bucket? Bucket is nothing but kind of a container. So it is a kind of container where you put objects. These are the objects. Yeah, these are the objects. Any file is an object in S3 bucket, and you put that into this. This is the container. This is the concept which is called as bucket. Anything if you want to create in S3, the first thing you have to do is to create a S3 bucket. Now there are certain criterias for how you can create a bucket. We will see that. The S3 service is a paid service. You will be paid, you will be charged based upon the size of storage you have and how you are going to access it. It is generally used to store static content, but that is very generalized statement. You can have a dynamic content as well. Whatever the data you store in this as a file, and the file is called as object. A single file in S3 bucket can be minimum 0 bytes to maximum 5 terabyte. A single file size can be maximum 5 terabyte. If I have a bigger file than 5 terabyte, a single file I'm referring, then it's not possible. You have to break it into the small files. So remember this thing. Then when I create a bucket, it is region specific. Objects are stored in the bucket, and bucket cannot be nested. I cannot create a bucket inside a bucket. There's a soft limit. You can create 100 bucket per account. But again, this can be increased by raising a support ticket with your AWS team. So when you want to create a bucket, you can do it via the console, API, and the CLI. Okay. Whatever the bucket ownership, whenever you create a bucket ownership, you will get the ownership of the bucket. This ownership cannot be transferred to anyone. You can store unlimited number of objects in your bucket, and so on. Bucket name only contains lowercase, and there's a limit. You cannot have a bucket name more than 63 character or less than 3 characters. By default, any object in a bucket is private. Remember this thing, which is not accessible by anybody in the world unless and until you go and do that. Fine. So this is done. We will now, let's do one thing. Let us go and create the bucket in AWS S3. I'm going to use my admin account again. Here is my um, account, which is a root account. I just want to create, here is, yeah, here it is. Let us go and create a S3 bucket in this. I will type in the S3 as the service. Once you do that, you will see different buckets. In my account, I have different buckets, but you can have any number. Yeah, you can also have some kind of buckets. The first and foremost thing when you start using in your S3 is to create a bucket. A empty bucket will not have any size or any permission. So let us go create it. How do you create? Just say create here and give a name. Now this name has to be very, very unique in the globe. No two bucket. If I just give my bucket, my test bucket, if I just give my test bucket, yeah, and it will give me a error. If I just create a bucket, it says bucket with the name, same name already exists. Now, how do you create a unique name of a bucket? Let's have some random characters or maybe some specific characters like this. So I will say ExcelR demo 06. Now this might have a unique name who has not used earlier. Sorry. Okay, sorry for that. Now, even though you can see here it is showing global, I have to select a region to create my bucket. Now, what is the consideration of creating a bucket in a particular region? Whenever you have an end user who is in certain part of the globe, you should ideally create the bucket closer to the where the user is, so that your data access will be fast and you don't face any latency. Now, one thing I just remember yesterday, somebody has asked me a latency. What is a latency? So let me explain it actually. So you have, let's say, a point, okay, and a point, and this is a B point. Now, to travel this data from A point to B point, it is going to take internet and travel multiple hops. The amount of time it is going to take to go from A point to B time is nothing but a latency of the data. This is the latency for you. It is measured in terms of the milliseconds, microseconds, seconds. So ideally, you should have a low latency for your application. Okay, over to our bucket. Here is my bucket, and I select a region. Let me go and select a North Virginia region. Now, doesn't matter where you are creating, but yes, if you are using it for just a practice purpose, I recommend you to just go and create in the North Virginia region. Okay, then I have bucket ownership. This is one of the features which I will explain you later on. But time being, I'm going to say disable, enable ACL and move ahead. Then you can see there is an option block public access setting for this bucket, which means by default my bucket will be blocked for any public access. Okay, and then I don't want to change anything, and I'm simply going to create a bucket. Huh? Just a minute. Give me a minute. I'm just bringing a glass of water for me. Thank you. Here it is. So my bucket is created and I will be able to access my bucket. How do you go and access your objects? You can do it by clicking on the bucket. Here is my bucket. And do I have an object in it? No, I do not have. What is object? A file. How do you do that? I can just say upload. I can do a drag and drop. I can select a file and so on. Let us go and create a file here. Add a file. I have some of the flowers images and I will use that. I have just select two files and I'm going to upload into to my bucket. Very simple. Yeah, that's it. It will say upload succeeded and I can just say close it. Hmm? My objects are created. Now, how do I access my object? I told you that every bucket or every object in a S3 bucket will have a URL for it. So what is the URL for this object? Click on it and you will see a URL for it. This is the URL. Click on it, paste it in the browser, and what you will get? You will get a error. What is the error? It is saying access denied. Now, why this is access denied? I just told you sometime back that any resources which are created in your bucket are by default unaccessible publicly. Now, this is a URL which I am trying to access and which is kind of a URL. You can see there's a format to it, there is a name, there's a domain to it, and the name of the bucket. How do I access it? This is my object and still I'm not able to access it. Okay, how do you access it? There's another way to do it. I will simply say, open this and say open object. And it is going to open it. Where is that? Oh, it has gone into another window and yes, it is saying FirePoint. Yes, okay, allow pop-up and here it is. But there's a difference. Yeah, if you see the URL, it is very huge. Let me open a notepad. It's very huge. If I post it here, you can see the URL is huge. Am I going to remember this complete URL? No, not possible. So what is this? This is something called as pre-signed URL. What is this pre-signed URL? The pre-signed URL is nothing but a URL of your object, which is signed with a signature, which will authenticate you, check your permission, and give you the rights to access your object. How it is done? It is done by a value which is called a security token. You can see here, and this is the huge security token which will last till this point. Yes, till this point. So if I share you this link, even you will be able to access it. Go and try it. Enter. I'm not sure what's happening. It's not pasting here. Copy it and paste it here. Paste it, enter. So if you immediately try to do that, you will be able to access it. When I say immediately, why? Because it also have an expiry period. You can see here XAMZ expired and it is saying as 300. Now what is this? This is in terms of the amount of time in seconds. So you are going to get 5 minutes to access this. Try to copy it properly and then only you will be able to access it. So anybody who has this URL will be able to access it. Now, this is a problem. Why can't I access like this? Okay, so can't access denied. It should not happen. Okay, it should work. So how do I access it? Let us go to the URL. Now, whatever the pre-signed URL, which I have just told you, is getting my permissions, which is associated with my ID, and then you are allowing you to access the URL. This is going to expire in 5 minutes and you will not be able to use it after that. There will be another token which is generated after 5 minutes if you want to access this object. Now this is a problem. Yeah, why can't I access it? By default, a bucket is a private. So let us make a public bucket as public. Let us go. How do you do that? I go to my bucket and in the permission here, in the permission tab in my S3 bucket, I go to the permission tab here and you can see block public access. It is set on. That means any kind of a access is denied. Okay, so I need to go and edit it and allow the public access. So I'm going to uncheck it and save changes and I have to confirm it. That's it. Confirm. And now you can see and observe the access type it is showing as object can be public. Let us go and see that. Yeah, my sunflower image, copy it. Again, I'm going to paste it in the browser and try to access it. Again, I got an error. Yeah, so this is working as designed. Now, why I'm saying it is working as designed, you can see this is saying that object can be public, but it is not actually public. How do you make it public? Go to your object, make selected, go to action and make public using ACL. Now, if you can remember, I enabled one setting, enable ACL access when I created a bucket. If you enable access ACL access, this option will be available for you. Otherwise, it will not be available. So that's the reason I have changed that. Now, once I do this, make public access using ACL, what will happen is my object will become publicly accessible. So it is saying edited and your object can be now it is publicly accessible. Let me close it. Go to that URL again and I will just refresh it. And here you are. Now anybody with this URL will be able to access this object. Let us try that. I have just pasted it. Try it out and you should be able to access it. Yeah, give me a thumbs up if you are able to access it. Okay, so this is how you are going to make a single object public and should be able to accessible. Very good, Jyoti. Thank you very much. Huh? Yes. And Rishini, yes, fine. Now, there's a problem here. What if I have hundreds of objects? What if I want to make those objects publicly accessible? Then we have something else. So we'll see that as well. Let us go to the PPT here. Yeah. So whenever you want to use your S3 bucket, all objects are private. Yeah. So when you want to give permission to somebody, you can grant the permission by using access control list. There are two types of policies. One is called as bucket policy and one is called as ACL. And when when you want to apply this, the permissions, you either can have a resource-based policy or the policy can be directly applied to the object directly. Now, let us look at what is ACL and what is bucket policy. So ACL, as the name suggests, access control list is the older way of giving access to the object in S3 bucket. It has very limited set of functionality. How do you check that? I go to my permissions here. In the property, if I just scroll down, you will see the access control list here. This, what it says, grant basic read-write permission to other AWS account. What is possible with ACL? To grant list and write for objects and for the buckets, read and write. If I want somebody to access my bucket publicly, then I have to go and I have very, very limited options, very limited options. So that's why this is the older way of giving permission to a object in your ACL. We're not going to use it. What is the other way of doing it? The other way of doing is to give a bucket, create a bucket policy. Bucket policy is very, very sophisticated. You can have multiple options, multiple permutation combination, and it can be very, very granular. So I can give access to single object I can give access to single bucket or folder or so on. So this is what we are going to do now. So let us do one simple exercise. I will try to create two folders in my bucket. And then what will I do? I will make sure that my object in my particular one folder, which I will name as private folder, any content which is there in my private folder will be privately accessible or nobody will be able to access it. And there will be another folder which is called as public folder. In that public folder, all users will be able to access it. Let us go and do that. So here is the create folder option. Give a name, a public. Remember, don't give any spaces in between and not to give any uppercase. This is public folder. Create. And I will create another folder. And this is called as private folder. Yeah, my confidential folder, secret folder, anything which I don't want to share with anybody on this bucket. Okay, so two folders are there. Let us upload two files onto it. Add file. Let us go Lotus and rows. I'm going to upload here and save upload. These two files are going into my public folder and I am going to close it and go ahead and open the private folder. Add two files here in the private folder. Add files, and now I'm going to add one more file, which is Daisy. Or it's okay. I can just add one more upload. Now I have added two files in my public folder, one file in my private folder. Let us verify whether I'm really able to access it via the URL. Now, this URL, whatever we have, okay, it also have a name. This is called as anonymous user access. The earlier one, which we used, the bigger one, that is called as pre-signed URL. But the other one, which is called as anonymous URL. This, if given to anybody, he will be able to access the content of this object or bucket. So if I just go and try to open it, it's going to give me access denied. And I'm not going to test it for the other file in the public. This is the private. And let me check in the public folder as well. Here is my public folder. I will open it, use the anonymous access and open it. Denied. Very good. So let us go and create it. How do I create it? By using the bucket policy. So let us go into the permissions. And here is your bucket policy. Now, I'm using some other bucket. Okay, that's the problem. I just deviated from another bucket. Let me go into this bucket. Okay, fine. Here is my, okay, fine. This is okay. And the private folder. Yeah, I was just kind of a surprise whether how come there is already a permission. Bucket policy is already there. So how do you create a bucket policy? Let us say I want to give access to the images in the public folder. Let's go and create a bucket policy for it. If you go and click on edit, it is going to give you this option to create a policy. Anybody who's expert on JSON can go and write it here, understand various the actions, resources, and all those things. Other way is to create a policy by using the policy generator. That is what I have earlier shown you. So just open the hyperlink and we are going to create a bucket policy. Select the bucket policy like this in S3 bucket policy. And then what is the effect? I'm going to say allow. What is the principle here? I want anybody in the world to access my object in the public folder. So I'm going to put a star here. And because I've selected a bucket policy, S3 is already selected. And I just want everybody to read my file. So read equivalent is get. A file equivalent is object. So I'm going to do search for a get object here. Get object, get object, get object. Get object, here it is, get object, I have selected it. You just have to scroll down. So one action is selected. Post that, I just have to use the ARN. Now what is the ARN of my bucket? Here is the ARN. And I need to give the absolute path of my public bucket as a public folder as the ARN. So I go into my public folder, go into property and copy this, this ARN here. Select copied and go into the policy generator, and that's it. Forward slash and star. And this is very, very strange. Something is not working. Resource field must enter a valid URL. This is very, very strange. It is not working actually. And this should work. This is the format I have done, and I have done it multiple times. Add a condition, nothing. I don't want to add a condition. That's it. ARN equals to nothing. I don't want to do anything here because this should work. Simply there is some issue in this URL, I think so, and that's why it is not giving. So let us do one thing. Let us create a policy which I already have. I already have a policy for this. I can just simply go and select that. Let me just open that policy. Hold on. While if you have any questions, you can just pose your questions and I will be able to answer it. Yes, I tried that, but it is still not working. It's very, very weird actually. It's something or yeah, so something is broken here. I don't know what is broken, but it is not taking this by any means. It should not happen actually. It is very, very simple. And I will say, let me use I'm going to copy it. AWS S3 bucket policy for read access. So allow read and write to bucket policy example. I will just go in here and I will just copy yes, object version. Let me go use it and I'm going to edit it. I'm going to put it into a notepad. Get object. I'm going to delete it. This is also, and here is the ARN of my bucket. Here is the ARN, and I go into this, put ARN here. Okay, public read, any principal, get object, and that's it. Copy it. Yeah, and there might be some issue with the syntax, but let us go and check it. Permissions and edit, and I am going to paste it here. Very good. And say, okay, there's one star which is left here. I just added that and save changes. Excellent. Okay, so I can see my bucket is publicly accessible. So let us go here and open the public folder, open this object, copy this, paste into the, and here is my image. If you want, you can also try it out. I'm just pasting the link. So this made my object publicly accessible. Let us go to the private folder and check whether it is accessible or not. Copy the object URL, paste it in the browser and try to do that, and access denied. Okay, so this is how it should work. So we will stop here and we will meet tomorrow. I am open to take questions. Next 3-4 minutes, I will take a question and then we'll end the class for today. And I hope you are able to understand what I have taught today. My sincere request to all of you, go and do the practice. Yeah, look at this recording and do the practice. Okay, Can you give access for object to some set of users manually? Yes, you can do that. You can do that. Which service we will learn tomorrow? We are going to see some of the features of your S3 and we are going to move to the EC2. Okay, very good. Anybody else? I'm open to take a questions for next 2 minutes and we will see tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you very much. If anybody does not have any question, they can leave the meeting and we'll meet tomorrow at the same time. Sir, many problem to join session and restriction. Can you check with Bharat for it? Do we have access to practice with AWS? You should create your own account. It's a big storage container having buckets as sub storage devices. Don't look at that big storage container. Don't look at this. It's using some kind of underlying hardware, and it is you are able to programmatically access. Yeah. So return or arrow to EC2 again. I did not get you. Thank you very much, Jyoti. Appreciate that. Uh, yeah. Fine, sir. Could you please give me a short intro lecture until now? Shailesh, you can just go and look at the screen record, the recording. It will be available for you. Hmm? Is AWS must and should open in laptop? Yes. If you want to practice it, please open it. What's the challenge in that, Bala? Okay. So that's it for today. We will end the call and we'll see tomorrow. Varsha, you can just get in touch with the ExcelR team for that and they will help you. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Sairam, in an easy way, I think